Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to my tier list for patch 4.4 and season 11. It's been about a week now since patch 4.4 has been released, and also since season 11's come out, and I feel like I have a really good understanding on the meta at the moment. I think the biggest key takeaways are AP champions are very dominant at the moment, especially with some of the buffs that they received in the most recent patch, and also with additions to Crown the Shattered Queen, Trident, and also a lot of AP items being changed and also buffed as well. Even with void staff being removed, AP champions are a lot stronger now because they can build that additional item and not need to build any magic penetration really at all, which makes them a lot stronger than what they were before. But there's still some AD champions and AD assassins that are still very strong. As always, we're going to be taking a look at every single role, and I'll give you all my thoughts on the champions in their role. If you have any suggestions, or if you have anything that you think deserves to be in a different role, or if you have any opinions, please let me know down in the comments. I always read through all the comments and reply to every single one of them. So even if you think the question or the idea might be completely stupid, I'll still be able to reply and give you my opinions as to why I put champions in certain tiers. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Wild Rift content as well, because this is a stacked patch with a lot of things happening, a lot of things happening. Right, let's head straight into this. The only lane that hasn't really changed is Baron lane. Obviously we're going to be starting off with the Baron lane, but this is kind of the lane that hasn't really changed too much. I put a couple of the champions down from S+ tier down to S tier that are champions that I don't feel like are really that strong at the moment. Renekton and Aatrox were the two that I moved down. I just don't think Aatrox still has enough power to really warrant playing in the Baron lane. Even jungle now, Aatrox is not as strong as what he once was before, since he's been nerfed quite a few times, and also with just how the meta's evolving in general. Everyone now can pretty much build anti-heal, and it's very easy. Every single AD carry is going to go Mortal Reminder, which is anti-heal. All the mages now have anti-heal as well pretty easily with Morellonomicon. So it's a little bit difficult now for Aatrox to be able to run around like he used to, heal up a bunch, and also deal a lot of damage. Renekton as well, even after some of the nerfs, some of the buffs, sorry, that he received, he's again moved down. Again, I don't really feel the power of Renekton. Again, his early game is just not as strong as what it could be. I thought that maybe with the buff before, I was like, okay, I'll keep him in the S+ tier, see how things go, but he still hasn't really performed too well. I think there's so many other Baron laners at the moment that are just so much stronger than him in the early game. And the thing with Renekton is that his main strengths are in the early game, and he falls off a little bit later on, you know, as the game goes on, but not as strong, unfortunately. I added the tank Yasuo in the Baron lane. I think tank Yasuo can be okay. You can play in mid lane. You can also play in the Baron lane as well. A lot of people were asking me to add my tank Yasuo build, sorry, into Wild Rift Fire. So I have done that now. You can go and check that out on the website. But yeah, tank Yasuo, not too bad. I think S tier is a pretty decent showing for Yasuo in the Baron lane. But the S+ tier champions are still pretty much all the same. Nothing has moved up into the S+ tier. You know, Akali still incredible and even stronger now with Crown of the Shattered Queen, allowing her to jump in and just take pretty much no damage from Crown of the Shattered Queen. You have two of the split pushing god and goddess with the Jax and Fiora. Both of these can split push very easily. They're both very strong in solo 1v1 scenarios, and they can even join team fights as well and be incredible. Camille the same, pretty decent with split pushing, not as good as Fiora and Jax, but Camille really comes in handy when she comes to the team fights with locking down champions. Ornn, still the best tank to play right now, much better than, you know, the likes of Malphite and Sion, who are still pretty good, but Ornn is still up there as the best tank even after a few nerfs in a row. Gwen as well, another champion I could build Crown the Shattered Queen. Again, very powerful at the moment. She got buffed a few times in the laning phase, so she's not going to get bullied as much, and she can scale really well into the mid and late game. Garen, super easy champion to play, still does a lot of damage. It's still really difficult to deal with, so I definitely feel like he deserves to still be up there. Wukong was actually the other champion that I moved down. I thought I moved another champion down, but Wukong's another champion that I moved down, or maybe that was jungle actually. Maybe Wukong was already S tier in the Baron lane, but yeah, Wukong still stays in the S tier. Shen, Gragas, I mean, all these champions in the S tier are still okay. You know, with me moving Renekton and Aatrox down, it doesn't mean that they're actually bad at all. Like, any of the champions from S and S and above, you know, S and S+ tier, are still going to be very powerful. You know, it's just most of the time the S+ tier champions are normally better than the S tier champions. But, you know, you still have your brawlers here as well. You know, Irelia and Darius can still be really good with Set. Just two other tanks, Malphite and Scion. Riven is still really good. Yone, you can still play in the Baron lane if you want to. Again, with Yasuo, his brother as well, they can both be played in the Baron lane fairly well, and you can get a lot of playmaking potentials with playing them both in the Baron lane. Jace up there as well, still very, very strong, still does a lot of poke damage, and also can jump in and do a lot of damage. A few champions in the A tier, Pantheon, Urgot, and Volibear. These bruisers sort of damage dealing bruisers in a way are just not as strong as the other bruisers at the moment. You compare it to champions like Darius, Irelia, Set, and Riven. These champions below are just not as strong as the ones above, but they can still work very well. I think Volibear is still better in the jungle than what he is in the Baron lane. The same with Pantheon as well, and Urgot is just never really been a good champion ever since the release, really, unfortunately. Kennen, I was tempted to move up into S tier. You'll see a bit later on, spoiler, that Kennen actually moved up into the S tier in the mid lane. I feel like in the Baron lane, it is a little bit more difficult to pull Kennen off because you are against bruisers most of the time, and it can be very difficult to try and poke them down. And also it can be difficult to maybe try and 1v1 them because they are going to be a lot more difficult to kill, and they're going to be a lot more difficult to lane against. But I think Kennen works a lot better in the mid lane against a lot of mages and assassins at the moment that are currently in the meta. But if you're against a Baron laner that's very, very squishy and wants to try and go in and do a lot of damage, then Kennen, still work out very well. Dr. Mundo, I can see Dr. Mundo being pretty good because we're in an AP meta now. Dr. Mundo's best champions to play against are AP champions, so I can see it working. But again, champion that just doesn't really do too much. Teemo's still okay as well. Vladimir also still okay in the Baron lane. Again, the thing with Vladimir and Kennen is that they're just better in the mid lane right now. Then you have champions just below, which don't really impact the game at all. They don't really do too much. In the right situation, it can be good, but most of the time, they're not really that strong. Singed, Tryndamere, Olaf, and Nasus. And then you still have KO down in the C tier. I don't think, the items and everything that have come out have made KO stronger at all. I still think KO still has the same weaknesses as what she always does. Some people can just farm with KO and scale to level 12, level 15 without being ganked at all, which is criminal. Every time that you're against the KO, you should always just look to gank the KO over and over again, tower dive her, put her behind, and then she's just basically becomes useless. But people don't really understand that. Right, this is where the spicy stuff comes in. So jungle and above, I was going to say, jungle and the next few lanes are all going to look very, very different to what you're used to seeing. Very, very different. First thing in the jungle, I forgot to mention at the start of the video, but Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks has come in and pretty much taken the Rift by storm. I mean, Fiddlesticks is an absolutely crazy champion. The amount of times I've been surprised by Fiddlesticks and been just one shot from Fiddlesticks is absolutely disgusting. This champion is incredibly strong at the moment. I do have a build on Wildrift Fire if you want to check it out. I haven't done the full guide yet, but I will be doing that over the next probably few days. But Fiddlesticks incredibly strong at the moment in the jungle. One of the best junglers at the moment, just because AP champions in general, as I mentioned, are very, very strong. Champions like Evelyn as well, one of the best AP assassins to play. She's really, really powerful right now. Lichbane, Infinity Orb, Deathcap, Crown the Shattered Queen. So she's going to do a lot of damage, but also she's not going to take as much damage as well because she has Crown of the Shattered Queen to stay there. But again, some AD assassins are still going to be very, very powerful this patch. Kha'Zix and Blue Shadow Assassin Blue Kayn, both of these champions are still very, very strong. Lee Sin as well is also very, very strong. I think my most banned champions at the moment are Lee Sin, Fiddlesticks, and Kha'Zix. All three of these champions are incredibly powerful. Same with Evelyn and Blue Kayn as well. If you can't really deal with them, then it's just best to ban them away, especially Evelyn with her invisibility. She can be very, very difficult to deal with. So yeah, all these champions in the S+ tier are absolutely incredible. It did have to mean I have to move, obviously, some champions down that I don't think are going to be as good this patch. Wukong, I did move down, and also Aatrox, I moved down. Again, the thing is with these two is that they're pretty good bruisers, like they're okay, but the meta at the moment is not really dominated that much by bruisers. It's more about these assassins, these champions that could do a lot of burst damage. If you look at all the champions in the S+ tier, all of them could do an insane amount of burst damage, and champions like Wukong and Aatrox are not really going to do too well against some assassins in the jungle. They can still work, like I said, anyone S and above can still work out, and you can still win games. It's just that you're not going to have as much carry potential, and they're not going to be as strong as the other champions. Champions still in the S tier that still work out very well. Volibear is still incredibly good in the jungle, lots of survivability. Again, the only one problem is that pretty much everyone has access to anti-heal now, so the healing of Volibear is not going to be there. Kind of same with Olaf as well. Riven's still incredibly strong. Vi with her lockdown is still really good. Xin Zhao is there. There are two champions that I've moved up. Actually, no, Echo was already here. I moved Fizz up as well. Fizz, again, just in general, AP assassins are absolutely insane right now. Echo was already S tier before, I believe, but now Fizz is also up here. Fizz is, again, another incredible jungler and probably Fizz's best position right now. Incredible jungler, an insane amount of burst damage again. You can just farm up, get your boots and mana, just roam around the map, get your kills, stack up your kills, get Magi's if you really want to as well. I wouldn't really recommend it, but it's still incredibly good. So Fizz and Echo both incredibly strong right now. Jarvan with his lockdown is really good. I've been seeing a lot of full damage Jarvans, especially with Dustblade, which are very powerful. So you can maybe give that a try, but Jarvan's still good. Ross Kane can still work out well if you're against the right composition. Olaf is still good. Twitch is just disgusting at the moment. I was going to put Twitch in S+ tier, but I still feel like there are some counters to Twitch, you know, just like a lot of lockdown, a lot of crowd control, and it can be pretty easy to play against Twitch if you know how to just play safe in lane and just don't allow Twitch to walk up for free with his invisibility. He can be very difficult to try and deal with, but you can still counter him in ways. So I just don't think he's as strong as the other S+ tier champions, but he is still incredibly strong at the moment. Especially with First Strike and also with Runa's Hurricane now being an AP item, one of Twitch's core items, really insane. Yone can still work out well. Obviously AP Gragas with Crown the Shattered Queen, same with Dinah as well. Both these champions with Crown the Shattered Queen just pop off completely in games, and Hecarim as well is still up there as being incredibly good. Which does mean that I did move some champions from S tier down into A tier. I'm trying to remember what champions I moved down because I did a lot of change and a lot of switching here. Zed I moved down. I don't think Zed is as strong as AP champions at the moment and AP assassins. Zed just gets really hard countered by like plated steel caps and also stasis. You can just buy stasis and he kind of just, all of his damage is gone in a second. So I did move Zed down from S tier down to A tier. You also see that in the mid lane as well. I think I moved Nautilus down as well. Nautilus, again, another champion that it can work out, but just, you know, it's just not as good in the jungle anymore as what he was before. Morgana actually moved up from B tier up to A tier. I think with the changes that happened to some of the AP items, and now Morgana has the opportunity to build Crown the Shattered Queen, so you can jump in with your ultimate and just not be afraid to take any damage. I think it's great. Obviously, Morgana, one of the quickest jungle clears as well in the entire game right now. Rammus moved up as well. I still think Rammus can be, you know, very good in certain scenarios, and you can just tower dive and just tank towers for a long time. Jace can still work out in the jungle pretty well. Nunu's still an okay tank. Shyvana, if you can farm up, it can work out. Fiora's still decent. Pantheon and Rengar are 2 AD sort of assassins that could be pretty good, especially both with Dustblade. Rengar with Dustblade can be very good, and also Pantheon can be very good. Camille just doesn't have the same sort of jungle clear as before, but her ganking is still great. Shen's still good. Irelia and Gwen are all still good. B-tier champions, again, champions that are just not going to be as effective as the ones above. Lilia just finds it difficult to really get around and try and get that five-person sleep that you want to try and get to. Really difficult to roam around, really difficult at times to be able to just farm up and get to that point in the game where you're strong enough. She's easily countered by any crowd control or any assassins that can just jump on her and pretty much burst her, because her build is not really tanky at all. You go for a lot of damage, but you're not really dealing a lot of damage. That's kind of the problem. Mundo can still work in jungle, but probably not that good. Darius is kind of okay. Graze is still not doing that well at the moment in the jungle. Probably can be okay now with the Bloodthirster changes. I'll maybe have to give him a try. And Amumu obviously still down there as well, with Musty, Warwick and Trendemir still down in the C tier. Even with the changes to some of the AD items, they still all three of them are down the C tier. They're just not going to offer as much as the other champions. Mid lane, again, a lot of changes have happened. I've moved some champions up. I've moved some champions down. Again, it's kind of a back and forth thing at the moment. You know, with champions like Zed, I moved Zed down from S+ tier down to S tier. I've also moved down, I feel like I moved someone else down as well, but I can't remember who it is. But anyway, you can see at the moment mid lane is just dominated by AP mages and just AP assassins in general. Even in the S tier as well, there's so many AP assassins, so many AP mages right now that are just incredibly powerful thanks to the addition of Crown the Shattered Queen, and now Trident being added into the game for the anti-shield item just makes mages so much more powerful. You know, Ori is incredibly good at the moment. Akali I already spoke about. She's really good. Vex as well. Zoe is just incredible. Then you move on to the S tier. You still have Katarina that could do a lot of burst damage. Ziggs can just throw his bombs from out of range and just be absolutely obnoxious to play against. Twisted Fate, again, one of the best roamers in the game. You can really make an impact with your ultimate. Yasuo could still work out very well, but you still have mages like Orianna. I was tempted to move Orianna up. I think Orianna is definitely, again, one of the stronger AP mages right now in the current meta. Gragas can still work very well in the mid lane. Swain's still really good. Jay's still really good. Kai'Sa I'll talk about in a second, but Kai'Sa mid lane still works very well with her AP build and also her new AD builds. Kassadin again in the mid lane. Crown the Shattered Queen just allows Kassadin to jump in and pretty much take no damage at all and just scale infinitely into the late game. Karma mid lane can still work if you're a support. It's probably one of the best supportive mid laners that you can play. Veigar, really good. Diana, Vladimir. Kennen, as I mentioned, moved up. I think Kennen is actually really powerful right now. I think the big thing with Kennen before is that when you jumped in with Kennen and used your Slicing Maelstrom, the problem was that they were taking a lot of damage. You know, you just turn around and you just one-shot the Kennen. Now with Crown the Shattered Queen, Kennen can flash in, use his ultimate, use everything else. It doesn't matter at all. You've got Crown the Shattered Queen to back you up. So you're actually not going to be taking any damage at all. You do have to be a little bit careful with Exhaust because Exhaust is a huge counter to Kennen. But I think Kennen is incredibly powerful at the moment and one of the best team fighting champions as well at the same time. If you can get a flank, if you can get a huge ultimate off, you'll be able to win a team fight in an instant. I think Kennen is incredibly strong. I'll say Yone's here and Fizz and Echo again have both moved up as well. From the A tier up into the S tier, again, two AP assassins that are incredibly powerful at the moment with Crown the Shattered Queen. I still think both these champions are probably better in the jungle than the mid lane, but they can still work out very well in the mid lane. A tier, there's still some champions here that can still be really good if you are comfortable with them and if you are very strong with them. Champions like Akshan, for example, who I think is a little bit more difficult to play with Irelia. Both these champions can be very good if you feel comfortable on them and if you feel like you can carry with them. But I think just in a general scenario, they're not as good as, you know, some of the other champions. Pyke mid lane can still work if you can roam around. I think Pyke in general is just incredibly strong at the moment. And he's pretty decent still, even after her nerf, she's still okay. Lux in the mid lane can still work. Galio, you still have Lucian and Corki in the A tier, who are both not as strong, you know, AD carry mid laners compared to Kai'Sa, but they still can both work out. Brand, Seraphine, Singed, Aurelion Sol, all these champions are kind of mediocre. They're below par. They're not as good. And the same with Morgana and KO as well. Again, two champions that are just not as strong, unfortunately, as the ones above, but they can still... Again, you could still carry with any champion. Like, you know, my opinion could be different to someone else's opinion. Someone might think KO is really strong, but again, the games that I've seen, KO is only really strong at level 15. It's kind of difficult to get to level 15 at some points. Dual lane. There's only one queen that deserves to be in the S+ tier. I've not put any other champion in the S+ tier, and the main reason being is that Kai'Sa is just way too strong right now. Like, Kai'Sa is incredibly strong right now. There are two different builds you can go now. You've probably seen my previous videos. If you're a regular on the channel, you've probably seen my two Kai'Sa guides. Dustblade or Draktor for the AD Kai'Sa with Estus Reaver Bloodthirster. Then you have the AP version, which got Crown the Shattered Queen added in, which basically makes Kai'Sa unkillable. Both of these builds are absolutely incredible. Both of them have their strengths and weaknesses, and both of them make Kai'Sa the best dual lane carry at the moment by a long stretch. I think there's a long stretch between Kai'Sa and the rest of the moment. There are still some champions that can still do well into Kai'Sa. You know, Kai'Sa's counters are things that are champions that have long range. You know, Caitlyn can bully Kai'Sa in the lane, Ezreal can, Varus can, Lucian can maybe dash in and do quite a lot of damage early on. There's still some counters that can definitely look to bully Kai'Sa in the early game, but once she gets a few items, once she gets her evolves, with how easy it is now to get her evolves, it's just absolutely disgusting. Like, it's just disgusting. It really is. It's really incredible what you can do with Kai'Sa at the moment. I'm really enjoying playing her. She's my most played at the moment this season. And again, you can flex around between your AD and your AP build. If your team has too much AP, cool, I'll go for the AD build. If my team has too much attack damage, cool, I'll go for the AP build. So much flexibility, so much damage, so much safety as well with her. She's just incredible. But to be honest, everyone in the S tier can still perform very well in the AD carry. You know, Ezreal is still very good, even though he didn't really get any changes to his build. He's still a very safe AD carry to play, very, very strong. Tristana and Xayah, probably two of the best champions at the moment that benefit from Bloodthirster. The changes that happened to Bloodthirster are still incredible. Varus is still incredibly good as well. Caitlyn, you have the new magnetic blaster, which will be able to hit champions at a long range and do a lot of damage. Lucian, one of the champions with Jhin. Both these champions also work well with Duskblade. You can see a little sneak peek into builds with both Lucian and also Jhin there. I'll probably do separate videos on them explaining the build in general. But again, two champions that work really well with Duskblade. Zeri is still really good as well. Same with Samira, again with the Bloodthirster buffs. I moved Jinx back up. I think that Jinx is going to be more powerful this patch because of the Bloodthirster changes. I think with Bloodthirster plus Phantom Dancer, she pretty much becomes unkillable now, and she's going to be really, really powerful. She can build. The crazy thing is that you can build Bloodthirster as a first item now, and the main weaknesses with Jinx was that she wasn't really that strong in the laning phase, and she was kind of losing a lot during the laning phase. But now with how much physical vamp you can get with Glutton Squeeze and also Bloodthirster, it just helps her a lot in the laning phase and helps her farm, helps her get to 2 or 3 items, and then she becomes very, very powerful. Especially now because the early game, there's not that many fights in the early game anymore. You know, at the first dragon, there are not that many fights at all because dragons got really, really heavily nerfed, so just helps Jinx scale a lot better. Corki was probably one of the worst recipients, I think, of this patch. I believe I said the word right. Corki got nothing at all. Like, Corki got shafted this patch. You can't build Void Staff anymore. Void Staff is deleted completely. There's no other pen that you can go. Going armor penetration is useless because Corki does 80% AP damage. Bloodthirster, one of the strongest AD carry items right now, is completely useless on Corki. Again, because he does 80% magic damage, the physical vamp is completely useless. I think the only item that can maybe benefit Corki is Crown the Shattered Queen, but then again, you think to yourself, you know, what other items do you want to get? So I think Corki in general is not as strong as the other AD carries, and I think Corki is going to need some changes and some buffs to actually come on par with the other champions that are in the S tier at the moment. Vayne at the moment, again, didn't really get much benefit from any of the items. You can't really rush Bloodthirst as a first item. The nerfs happened to Vayne a few patches ago. Again, made it very, very difficult for her to actually scale and for her to be very, very powerful because she doesn't have as much attack speed anymore. Draven and Neela, both very difficult champions to play in separate scenarios. You know, Neela, probably one of the worst laning phases in the game, and it's very difficult for her to scale. Draven, one of the best laning phases in the game, but knowing how to use that to your advantage is very, very difficult. And also, if you die once and you lose all your stacks and you basically become useless, and also catching axes is very, very difficult. Misfortune, I actually want to try Misfortune with Duskblade. I think Misfortune with Duskblade is very, very powerful right now because of the extra damage that Duskblade now gives you. At 160 bonus physical damage, and also the extra armor penetration now, I think is very, very powerful in Misfortune. She stays in the A tier. Twitch and Ashe, you can make them work in dual lane, but I don't think they're as powerful. And then you have Senna and Akshan down in the C tier. Again, two champions that don't really work at all. To be honest, I don't even know why they're down in the C tier. To be honest, I don't even know why they're in the dual lane, because Akshan's a mid laner and Senna is a support. It's a little bit difficult. And then we have support. Again, more changes with support, more movements up and down, more movements all over the place. There are still the same 3 champions that stayed in the S+ tier, Lulu, Yuumi, and Soraka. The one thing with Lulu and Yuumi is that both of these champions are not as good in solo queue, but they're probably 2 of the best supports when you have a duo or a trio by your sides. I would say the best solo queue champions right now are Soraka, Janna, and Pyke, but the reason why Lulu and Yuumi stay up here is because of how strong they are in duo queue. You know, solo queue, if you say like that's 50-50, for example, like in solo queue, they're both like down here, but duo queue, they go all the way up. Like they're just absolutely disgusting. So that's why they stay in the S+ tier, in my opinion. Soraka, Janna, I mean, especially after Janna's rework, she's just insane right now. Soraka also very, very good with Harmonic Echo getting that incredible buff. And Pyke, you might be surprised to see me putting Pyke in the support role, but I think Pyke is one of the best carry supports, if not the best carry support at the moment. The buffs to Duskblade, the buffs to Boots of Dynamism, the buffs to Pyke in general, how much damage this champion can deal. You can roam around and do an incredible amount of damage and just solo carry your team. I've had countless Pykes in my games go like 20 plus kills. Yes, I know Pyke guarantees the kills with his ultimate, but you have to remember when Pyke guarantees his ultimate, the kills with his ultimate, you get more gold yourself. So you actually want Pyke to secure the kills. But yeah, a lot of crowd control, a lot of burst damage, a lot of playmaking potential as well. And Pyke is just insane right now. S tier champions are still here. I moved Lux down because I just don't think Lux can really compete with the other supports right now, like Soraka and Janna. Maybe Lux still still deserves to be in the S plus tier, but I think she's kind of in the same tier with like Karma and Nami at the moment in terms of the other enchanter supports that are just below Lulu, Yumi, Soraka, and Janna. Thresh, Alistar, Nautilus, Leona, Rakan, all these kind of tanky sort of supports can still work and they can still be very, very good. They're not as good as these enchanters or assassin supports, but they can still work out very, very well. A lot of crowd control, again, a lot of playmaking potential that you can look to try and carry games. Galio, Ornn, not as good as the other champions. Sona, I think, can work with the buff to Harmonic Echo, but again, she just takes a little bit too long to come online. Ashe can still work very well. Same with Gragas. Senna, if you know how to play Senna and if you're just very, very careful with her, she can still perform very, very well. Seraphine could be okay. I think I maybe should move Seraphine up to A tier because I still think Seraphine is okay. Again, with Harmonic Echo with the AoE shielding, I think she's very powerful. Braum and Blitzcrank are okay. And then you have Set and Morgana down in C tier. Again, I'm not really too sure why I have these two champions down in C tier because I'm pretty sure no one plays Morgana support and no one plays Set support. But yeah, that is pretty much everything. Everything has been done. Everything has been sorted on the website. I've done my tier list. I've also done my rune tier list, which I'll probably do an update on soon in terms of video. I've updated the website and all the builds, all the best builds, everything like that. So you can just go on, champions. You can just go on champion builds. If you want the latest Fiddlesticks build, for example, you just click on Fiddlesticks and you can see everything here with situational items. I now have situational runes on the website as well. I'm trying to think of champions that actually have situational runes. There you go. Like here with Ari, situational runes. I also have builds for Severe and Zyra when they both come out. Again, you can just get a step ahead of the game if you want to check both of them out. But other than that, that is pretty much everything. Thank you all for tuning into this tier list. Again, any opinions that you have, any comments, any questions, anything like that, please leave them down below in the comments. I don't want any of you to be shy at all. I always like the comments. I always reply to the comments. Just ask any of my regular viewers. They'll tell you what I'm like. But yeah, I'll be streaming pretty much every single day on the new patch, on the new season, and trying out some more champions. And maybe I'll move my tier list here and there and everywhere. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, as always, appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you all for all the support as always. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next wider video. Peace.